Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we're going to take you on a little bit of a late fall garden tour here at the house. We're going to do this because I know that late fall, a lot of our gardens, and depending on where you live in the country, maybe you're already covered in snow, but maybe you're like us here in North Carolina where we experiencing fall, right? Everything, the leaves have fallen off the trees for the most part. We've had multiple freezes, so a lot of our shrubs and perennials are starting to go dormant. And so I just want to kind of walk you through, so maybe you're brand new to gardening and this is your first season and you're not really sure what to expect or what should I be doing in my garden, or maybe you're just a seasoned gardener that has gardened for many years and you just need a little refresher, or maybe you're from a different part of the country that doesn't know what it looks like in the South in late November. So we're going to walk you through and I'm going to show you what the garden looks like. I am also going to give you some tips and things to be looking for in your garden that you can be doing right now. Within the next month or so, I hope to have most of my fall gardening chores completely done, have all my gardens buttoned up for the winter time, and so that way once December and Christmas hits, we can kind of just ease into those months and just kind of sit back and rest and start to dream about spring. Here we are standing in front, of course, the garden boxes. We've got Hydrangea Hill right over here and then the cottage garden below me. I wanted to start up here because I wanted to show you our panicle hydrangeas. We've got 2 rows. These are our little lime hydrangeas. Now, panicle hydrangeas typically are your sun-loving hydrangeas and they bloom on new growth. It is up to you if you want to leave your panicles with the old flower heads on them in the winter. Truly, it is a preference choice at this point. Honestly, I go back and forth. Do I leave the heads on these here? The only thing about leaving them on at this location is because I see them every time I drive up. I look out my kitchen window and here they are. And from a distance, all the brown kind of starts to get a little bit to me. So you can come in and you can go ahead and trim your panicles. Because they bloom on new growth, you're gonna have to prune them anyway. For me, I will probably come in here and just shape them up and get rid of the heads. Now, in other parts of the gardens and other parts of our, areas in the nursery and here at the house, maybe I'll leave them on. I go back and forth. Do I leave them or do I take them off? Behind over here, so we have the little limes, and then we also have the firelights. So you can see that the firelights are nice and big as well. Same kind of panicle hydrangea. These can be pruned back. They must be pruned back because they bloom on new growth. For us, you don't want to prune them back any later than really kind of mid-February, early March. Once you start to see the new buds start to swell, like the little green growth buds on them, that's when you prune them back. But you can see really how much they grow. So this is where I pruned it back last year. And then we've got about 2 feet worth of growth that has happened in the growing season. So that is one thing that I can be looking at, and I still haven't decided yet. You know me, one day I say, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then the next day it's like, oh, yep, nope, I'm doing something else. I switch up and change my mind. Now, my garden boxes are put to sleep. We did that a couple of weeks ago. We did that together. They've got that beautiful leaf litter on there. The compost, I can see where some squirrels have been digging in it, but they are doing great. You'll notice I do not have any winter weeds coming up. I contribute that really to the fact of having that nice thick layer of that leaf litter on there. So leaf litter simply is when the leaves fall, you take them and you chop them up really fine and then you lay them down. My mom and Jackson have taken up that banner, and so what they do is they just use Mama's old riding lawnmower and pass over the leaves multiple times until they're nice and finely chopped up, and then they bag them, and then I get this great leaf litter. So it is great to amend your soil with and to keep the weeds out. Now, Down here on the cottage garden, we've talked about this big, beautiful beast of a lantana many times before. This is Miss Huff. Miss Huff is one of the surefire perennial lantanas for us in North Carolina, Zone 7B. Last time we were here, she was still green and had flowers on her. Clearly, the freeze has gotten to her, but she is huge. She takes up probably more than half of this garden box. Jerry and I, he doesn't like it here. He likes the lantana, but it just is overwhelming the bed. And after this year, I can't disagree with him. So what we're looking at doing is we're going to cut her back and then try to surgically remove her, because I know that her root system covers probably literally this whole entire bed. So we're going to try to remove her, get her out, but for now we're just going to trim her back. Then my rockin' salvia, the freeze finally got it as well. So you're going to come in and I am going to cut it all the way back down to the ground. So if you still have annuals in the ground that have been, the freeze has gotten them, now is a great time to get them out. This salvia, I'm going to see if it'll come back for me. So that's why I say I'm just going to cut it flat to the ground and then see if she returns. You can see that the daylilies with the freeze, they have started to really die back. They will eventually completely die back and you can just pull them out, like the foliage out, be really, really easy. But at this point too, I could easily come in and gather up all that green material and cut it back. They have stored up enough energy for next year, so that is not an issue whatsoever with that. My Nephophia right here is going to be an evergreen. Red hot pokers, this will be an evergreen for me, so I will leave it. I will not trim this back until that end of winter, spring is starting to come, because it will shoot up new growth. So basically what I will do is take the whole thing like a ponytail and give it a flat top. That way all the old foliage will be gone when the fresh new foliage comes up. So Nephophias, red hot pokers, I will leave that all winter long. Now, let's mosey our way back here to the backyard patio and those areas. You can see we've got water, and I got my rain boots on because we have had good rain. I tell you this all the time. Here in North Carolina, the southeast part of the United States, our winters are typically very moist. Like, we get a lot more consistent rain in the wintertime than we ever do the rest of the year. That's why we love to plant our perennials, trees and shrubs this time of year, to cooler temperatures, and I don't have to worry about watering. Essentially, I can plant them and walk away for the winter because the good Lord gives us the rain, and I don't have to be out here watering multiple times a day if I had planted in like July and August. Now, I have not touched this area whatsoever, so I'm going to show you my warts and all in my garden, so y'all be kind. But I do this because I want you to see what your garden is going to look like as it goes to sleep, right? As those annuals die, as your perennials start to go dormant, and with your shrubs. So in here, we'll start here on the forest pansy bed. You can see that I do have some, I have some begonias that are still there. I believe this was the Rocapuco Impatiens. They are there. Let's see, I think those are pretty much only my annuals that are in here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in here and just rip them out. They just get completely taken out. My perennials, as they are dying back, like I have astilbes. This is the dark side of the moon from Proven Winners. So I've got astilbes. They get burned back in the wintertime. So I just come in here and trim them low down to the ground. So my hostas, they will start to melt away. You can see this June hosta. She is starting to melt. This is completely normal. When your hostas look like this is not something to be freaked out about. This is a normal process for your hostas. Your astilbes, your hydrangeas, they're going to lose their leaves. Now this is my sweet little munchkin, which is one of those really petite oak leaf hydrangeas. I don't want to prune this. I'm just going to leave it alone. My Let's Dance Blue Jangles hydrangeas from Proven Winners, I have these in here as well. Leave them alone. You can see where a lot of their foliage has already, frozen and is falling off. That's perfectly normal. That's what they're going to do. Now, if you want to, like this old bloom head, if you wanted to come in here and just prune it right there, then you certainly could do that. But this hydrangea blooms on new and old growth. So this is not like a panicle. You don't want to come in here and prune it back. Just leave it alone and she will be just fine for sure. Moving over kind of to this side of the flower bed, we have got this was an absolutely gorgeous flower bed in the spring and the summer, because we really, when I planted this, I wanted it to be for 4 seasons. Lots of beautiful interest. We've got the little Limelight Prime hydrangeas in the back. Again, more panicle hydrangeas. Panicles just do so well for us here in the South. So I love having those Limelight Primes. They're all on the back. Then we have perennial grasses. This is a patchy rose, nice and tall. I am going to leave this. I know it's brown, but it gives me some texture and some interest in my garden during the winter. I will want to prune this flat to the ground that same time. Into February, going into March, as the plants are waking up from the winter slumber. We do have a little bit of an issue here in the garden, right? As you garden, you find issues, and that's just called experience. This is Scentlandia, and Scentlandia has gorgeous, absolutely stunning fall foliage color. In the summertime, it's a beautiful bright green. Now you can see it's a gorgeous burgundy. It is a spring bloomer with really pretty white blooms. It has a nice fragrance. That's why it's called Scentlandia. However, Scentlandia is very, very happy here, and that is a problem because, do you see these little guys right here? It is starting to spread, and this is not the first time it's done this. I noticed it for the first time really in the spring, and it is sending out runners, and it is running all over the place. And so it's just too happy here, and I can't have it constantly running and me pulling it. So we are going to remove these because they're just going to take over my bed if I don't stop it. So that is something, like even right here, you can see where I have like the mother plant per se right here, and then over here, that's about 2 feet away, I have a new sprig. It is not, at first I thought it was like a limb had gotten pushed down and then mulch had gotten on top of it. It's not. It's sending out runners, and it is kind of overtaking the bed. So I'm having to constantly fight it. I see some back there that is way far away. These guys are going to come out. Now, if you have an area that you want to naturalize, that means that you want a plant to kind of take over, especially if it's a sunny, moist area. Scentlandia would be amazing. It has gorgeous flowers, great fall color, fantastic, low maintenance plant. I just don't want it to be running here in my garden. So it is coming out, and it is to be determined what we're going to put in here. So that just kind of gives you an idea on that. The climbing rose is just, whew, man, yeah, she's this is the Generous Gardener from David Austin. Very, very vigorous. I will come in here and clean her up when the time is appropriate. But yeah, so she is starting to feel the effects of all those freezes, has lost a lot of her foliage, which is completely normal right now. Coming on over here, I have showed you this a couple of times before. The freeze finally got the salvia. Look at this. I mean, it is fried. There is some green growth down there at the bottom. This is Rockin' Playin' the Blues from Proven Winners. I love this. It's a massive pollinator attractor. What I will do is come in and cut it to the ground. So that way, this should be a perennial for us next year. And so it will overwinter and do great and no problem. So we'll just come in, cut it to the ground, leave it alone. Same thing that I did with my guara. You can see that I had cut it back, and it will be what I call like a semi-evergreen. That kind of foliage will stay here all winter. And then come spring, when everything starts to wake up, it'll really kind of explode and wake up. The David Austins back here, remember these, this is the first year that I have them, so they will get pruned back at the appropriate time, which is that late winter, and just really prune them. I will take you along for that whole ride, but just know that those roses are back there. The rhubarb dolls, man, they are doing great, as is the Susan Williams Ellis and the Poet's Wife. Those are the three that I have back there as well. Share with you my Edgeworthia. We have talked about Edgeworthia a couple of times, and she is starting to open up a little bit. These are her buds. Edgeworthia is really fun because the flower interest really happens in the winter time. Clearly, it is a deciduous plant. It is starting to lose all of its leaves. You can see that big old massive pile of leaves down there at the bottom, because as a freeze comes, it drops all of its leaves. But this is where it's starting to shine with its sweet little flower buds. So what they're going to do is they set in the end of the summer and the fall, and they're going to continue to open up as the winter progresses. The most delicious fragrance on these Edgeworthias. Gorgeous plant, love them. Violas are very happy. Look at that. That trough is a very, very happy. So violas for us, get some leaves out here, are one of the, besides pansies, they are the best blooming annual. So if you're looking for some seasonal color in your garden, violas and pansies is the way to go for sure. The fountain has been turned off for the winter time. We need to pop the plug so that it will drain. You can see it does have water in it. That is because of the rain that we got today. But then here on this bed, as we're making our way kind of closer to the patio, if you will remember, we have the 4 of the Chuck Hayes gardenias. If you notice that your gardenias, maybe they're showing a little bit of yellow or dropping some leaves, that is completely normal for this time of year. So mine did it. They've kind of stopped doing that. Completely normal. Just leave them alone. Don't panic. All is well. The 9 bark is doing quite well. Very happy here. It is called a 9 bark because it kind of peels, the bark peels, and it's like it has 9 layers. So if you have a 9 bark, you know that it is a fantastic plant. Really fun as that bark pulls away from those mature limbs. You get to have all sorts of different color variation in there. So this is going to be my kind of my main winter structure right now. I do have, you just can't see them, 3 of the brand new, being new on the market next year, the Summerific Lilac. It is Lilac Crush, and these hibiscus were gorgeous. That I love them. I have 3, so there's a 1, 2, and a 3. Now, what I'm about to say, what I do in my garden works for me. If you are in a much different climate of, the country, then maybe you need to do something a little different. Before I knew any better, once my hibiscus had a freeze and I lost all my foliage and they were just sticks, I went and cut them to the ground. So they are literally cut about as far down to the ground as I could comfortably get. It has worked for me. Proven Winners, if you look on their website, they advise waiting to cut them back until coming out of spring and into summer, because they do tend to have a little bit more hollow stems. And if you have a heavy snow load on top of your hibiscus, there's that potential that they could rot. Like I said, I did it for years before I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, and I've never had an issue. So I know in my garden that it works, that I can prune them back this time of year, and you can take them all the way down to the ground because this is a perennial. So it's going to shoot up new growth. You're not going to get new growth from your stems. So feel free to cut it back as far down to the ground as you need to, because like I said, you're going to get growth coming out of the root ball, not from these stems. It just cleaned it up for me, makes it look nice, and so we're going to leave it. The double plate doozies, they are doing so nicely and showing me gorgeous fall color. Now you may notice a couple of things about this. One, the Incredible hydrangeas are gone. So we have pulled them out. If you remember, we had quite a predicament with our Incredibles. They are gone. We're actually, because y'all, I just love my Incredibles so much. They were stunning this spring, summer. I mean, they were gorgeous. We're going to problem solve a little bit. We're actually going to dig out some of the soil and replant them. We're thinking maybe there was some sort of issue with the soil. So we're going to kind of dig out the soil and replant some new ones because I want that look so badly because they were gorgeous. But they had a slow death. If you missed that whole thing, they had a slow death over the summer. We're trying to figure that out. So those are gone. The double play doozies are beautiful with their gorgeous fall color. I have got some sort of little critter coming in at night and digging in my flower beds. It's either a raccoon or it's a possum. Those are my two. It could be a skunk, but I don't smell anything, so I doubt it's a skunk. I think they're digging and looking for either moisture or like worms and grubs, those kinds of things. And they can come through and absolutely like destroy my flower beds. So I'm constantly coming in here and moving the mulch back. So if you're like, why is your mulch all torn up? Well, it's because of the critters. It's the wildlife. We are going to come through and plant in between these double play doozies the new gardenia. It is the, what is it called?
Steady as she goes.
Thank you, Steady as she goes. Steady as she goes gardenia. It is actually a sport off of my Chuck Hayes, and it's an improved version, so it's a double bloom, beautiful. Cannot wait to add this. So this whole little section is going to be filled with lots of color and lots of fragrance from those gardenias. Now we're going to kind of turn around and I want to show you kind of what is happening here in these two backyard beds. Remember, this time last year, these beds did not even exist. We installed these flower beds, created these flower beds, I want to say it was like March that we started that whole process. And for not even 1 year in the ground, could not be happier. Constantly adding, we have shrubs, lots of perennials, trees in here. Essentially, I'm going to kind of leave this flower bed alone for the winter. Come in here, of course, we've got winter weeds. If you've gardened for any length of time, you know there are summer weeds and there are winter weeds. Well, the winter weeds are already starting to make their presence known. The good thing is because it's so nice and damp, they're relatively easy to pull out, but they tend to be a lot bigger. So we're going to be constantly going through here and weeding. If you can kind of come through your flower beds once a week, twice a week, heck, even once a month and get the weeds out, it will make life so much easier in the long run because it's not so overwhelming. So constantly, of course, keeping those weeds in check. My echinaceas have done fantastic for me this year. You will notice that they have all of their old blooms. Their heads are still here. The finches love to come in here and eat these seed heads. So I will leave my old heads on here all winter long. I will let the birds come and pick off of that and eat those. Double play doozies still doing great. Butterfly bushes doing really well. Everybody's just going to kind of hang out. Because there are so many perennials in here and shrubs that have kind of that fall winter interest as far as their structure, I am going to leave them. My Cheyenne sky grasses, they will stay. I will not cut them back. The main work in this flower bed is going to happen late winter going into spring. So that's just kind of the deal on that. What I will do, again, onions. Do y'all battle onions like I battle onions? My goodness gracious, these wild onions. And it's like as soon as you get one little crop, you'll get this whole little outpouring of them. So these are wild onions that of course you want to get in here and really you have to get the little bulb out, otherwise they just keep sprouting back. So weeds, another weed. This, what I do need to come ahead and do, this is my luminary phlox, perennial, gorgeous perennial phlox from Walter's Gardens Improving Winters. I will come in here and cut it flat to the ground. I've got 2 clumps right here. Just cut it to the ground and get rid of this old foliage. But everybody else is doing really, really well. Lots more echinacea. This is my Harry Lauder walking stick. I don't know if you're familiar with a Harry Lauder walking stick. It is technically a shrub or a tree. I can't remember now which one it is. But the main interest is in the winter because it has this great contorted shape to it. in the summertime is covered in these nice big green leaves. So you really cannot see the structure of the plant. Wintertime is where it gets its interest. Nice and contorted. It has these little, I don't know if those are this, and I say seed heads, it's not gonna like spread, but the little pods, but just a beautiful structure to it. Relatively a slow grower. It will be more wide than it is tall, but really fun. If you ever see a Harry Lauder walking stick available, grab it. Really, really fun. I have not done anything to this plant as far as like try to train it, trim it. I just leave it alone, let it grow. And like I said, in the wintertime is where it really shines because you can see just how contorted it really is, and lots of fun there for sure. I do want to go ahead and take you. I may regret this. I'm just kidding. I'm not. Gonna regret it. Take you over to the dahlia patch. Jerry says no. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna show you the dahlia patch. I've actually showed you the dahlia patch before, but again, totally showing you warts and all, everything that's happening. Jerry's giving me the stink eye behind, saying, oh, don't do it. I am gonna do it. So come on, let's go over here. Because, so for those of you that, maybe this is your first time watching us, look at the grass, as Jerry just said. Back in the fall, we got it aerated, seed, limed, fertilized, the whole 9 yards, and it is gorgeous. It is stunning. He has cut part of it for one time. I don't think the field has been cut yet because you want it to get to a certain height before you cut it. We have fescue here in North Carolina. So this is, fescue is a cool weather crop grass. So it has this beautiful, nice, lush green color. Especially it really shines, you know, in the cooler temperatures of the year. It may struggle a little bit in the hot part of the season, hot part of the year, but for now it does great. Now, going back to what I was going to tell you before he distracted me with the grass. So last fall, Jerry and I went to go visit our friends Laura and Aaron out in Oregon, and Laura was so kind to send a box of her dahlia tubers to us this spring. So I planted them. They did okay. I think I got them in the ground too late. So they didn't start blooming until the very end of the season. They were stunning. We have decided that we're going to completely rework this area. That's why Jerry doesn't want me to show it to you, because it is a very much of a hot mess right now. So the winter weeds are invading. We're going to completely rework this area and put in more beds. We have tried to, the walkways are too wide, so we're going to narrow them so we can get more flower beds in. Therefore, since we're going to completely rework this area, I'm going to have to dig up the tubers, dig them up, clean them, store them. I'll do exactly what Laura tells me to do and get them stored away. I have already, because I did catch the dahlia fever there at the end of the season, I have ordered more dahlias, and so they will be coming in, you know, late winter, early spring. So we need to make room for more dahlias. We will show you that whole process. I mean, there's a gazillion videos out there on how to properly dig and store your dahlias. Beyond this winter, I do not plan on having to dig them up again because we are North Carolina. We are Zone 7B. I don't have to worry about my winters being too cold. If anything, I have to worry about them being a little bit too wet, and the tubers could rot. But this is a full sun. It is on a slope. We amended this soil, but this is a nice slant, so the water drains really well. We got a ton of water just a couple of hours ago, and there is no standing water right here. Yes, it's damp, but it is not, nothing is standing here. So I will come through, dig these up, take care of them, so we can completely rework this area. But yeah, this is the dahlia patch. No, I did not do a tour on it in the fall because life was crazy and it was not looking up to my standards, and so I was like, yep, not gonna show it to you. I did take lots of pictures, so I've got lots of pictures that I can show you, but you know, your first year ever doing a crop, you learn a lot of things, and I learned a lot of things that I will share with you later. But for now, this is the dahlia patch. They are going to get dug up so that we can rework this area. Give you an update on the phantom hydrangeas. It was a little bit over a year ago that Jerry and I came in through here, and we had this huge surplus of phantom hydrangeas that we had grown at the nursery. They didn't sell. It was time to do something with them. So we were like, aha! So we decided to come in here in front. These are cryptomerias, and so this is a great privacy screen that Jerry and I planted before our house was even built, so they're probably like 19 years old. And we had this patch in front of them that we created this flower bed. We put in, I don't know, 20 something of the phantom hydrangeas, and a couple of you have been asking for updates on how the phantoms did. For 1 year being in the ground with no irrigation and full hot sun all day long, they did really well. So you can see from their old bloom heads that they bloomed quite nicely. They did not have massive amounts of growth. Perfectly normal, perfectly to be expected. Remember, I tell you, when you plant your shrubs, especially if they're not on irrigation, that first year they sleep. That means keep them alive, people, right? You see there's a lot of root growth happening, maybe not a lot up top. The second year they creep. So I expect next year to get some really good growth out of them, bigger flowers, and then the third year they leap. That is from that third year and beyond is where you see maybe getting close to mature size or rapid growth. So that is what we were expecting. We were very pleased with how they did this year. Like I said, that first year being in the ground. If you're looking to add hydrangeas, now is the perfect time, especially if you're in the southeast. We have mild temperatures, lots of rain. Hydrangeas are very cold hardy. Get them in the ground, they will be very happy. So that is just a little bit of the gardens here in the back, warts and all, real life here at Gardening with Creekside. I want to show you exactly what my garden looks like. So that maybe if you're in a similar climate zone, that you can learn from what is happening in my garden, what I am doing real time, that you can be doing in your garden. And just, I think if we're honest with each other and show each other the good, the bad, and the ugly, it all helps in the long run. So as always, we appreciate you. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for Gardening with Creekside. See you in the next video. Bye, friends.